Hello, I'm Mary V. Today, let's talk about shifting. So before you learn how to shift, it's quite important to be able to move your hand up and down to make sure it's not too tight. A lot of people have a problem between their first finger and their thumb, and they squeeze. And it's very, very difficult to do shifting if you're squeezing. So if you hold your violin like this, and just run your hand up and down the neck very lightly, like that, just up and down, say the A string, and make sure that your hand can actually move, right? So the first way to shift is with one finger, and let's take B on the A string, and we're going to aim to shift up to D on the A string. That's the third finger, that's why it's called third position. So with our first finger, we slide up until we hear the D, and then we slide back down until we reach B. Now, you can hear the shift, and it's a good thing to be able to hear the shift at first, right? So go from B to D, next go to the second finger, C natural, and then we're going to aim for E. So from C natural and back down to C. So the next finger is the third finger on D, and we're going to go to F natural. Now you'll notice there's a slight preparation in the hand just before I shift. See if you can prepare your hand to do the shift by slightly moving the wrist forward and then moving your hand forward. And the same thing going back, so that it's not sudden and not abrupt like this, very rigid. The reason for that is because when you do shifting, you don't want to guess and just shift your hand in a sudden movement to a new place. You've got to use your ears to sort of hear the sounds inside the shift to get accuracy. And that's why when you start shifting, it's quite a good idea to allow the shift to be heard quite strongly, like that. So the first shift we do is from first position to third position. They're the two foundation positions that we need to be very secure on. So going from one finger to another finger, how do we do that? Let's take B on the A string, and we're going to aim for E with the second finger. So we go up on our first finger to D, and we simply put our second finger down on the E, and coming back down, we stay on our second finger and go down to C natural. Okay? Right? So let's go to a first finger to a third finger. So how do we do that? So that's going to be B to F natural, right? So we do the same thing going up. We go up on the first finger to D, and then we put our third finger down. And then when we come down, we leave our third finger down and we go to D. So we want to start hiding the sound of the inside of the shift so that it's not quite as loud. So what we do is we lighten the bow as we're shifting, and we also speed the shift up. So let's go back to just first finger to first finger. So first finger on B, first finger on D. And we'll listen to it with the bow lightened a little bit. So as I'm doing it, I'm sort of slightly lightening the moment when I'm shifting up so that the slide is less obvious, but I can hear it. And that's what is so important, in that it stops me from guessing, right? I don't have to guess. I can hear the slide, but very, very lightly. So I'll just slow that down. So I can hear that. I can hear when I come to the D. And then let's hear let's see if you can hear the slide a little bit and then come to the B. Now let's go from the first finger to the second finger, and let's see if we can lighten and make that slide less obvious, okay? So there's really two things going on in the shift. One is that my hand starts to get used to where third position actually is. So I've got an expectation of knowing where it is and being able to sort of expect with my muscle memory that that's where it is. And also I use my ears very, very carefully to listen to when I've arrived at the top note and the bottom note. Now it's just something you have to get used to and become quite dexterous at bowing that way without looking as if you're hiding the slide. You've got to bow as if it's just a smooth bow, right? You just get used to doing the slide a little faster, and during the moment of the slide, the bow just lightens it a little bit, but it doesn't look as if the bow's stopping or anything like that. So this is what you need to do, is to know which note you're going to aim for when you're starting at the bottom. If you don't know where E is, then there's an open E, okay? So that's your note. And then from memory, going back to the B. and then changing the finger at the top. So there's a few things involved in shifting. One is building up an expectation of where the new position is, and that's muscle memory. Just very carefully do that so that you can hear the whole thing with a slide until your hand sort of gets really used to where third position actually is, and going back and forward and back and forward. And the other thing is to help the shift with your bow until it's absolutely seamless between the left hand and the right hand. And various shifts can feel more awkward, for example, between a first finger and a fourth finger. That's a G. It's a good idea to shift with the first three fingers, right? And then later on add the fourth finger. And when you add the fourth finger, make sure it's part of the forward wrist movement and the backward wrist movement. So that's a little introduction to shifting, to show you how much the ears can actually hear when you're close to the violin, and how dexterous you can become at making the shift seem very effortless. But the violinist has always got to listen and also to know what note you're going to end up on at the end of the shift. So make sure that your hand is nice and loose and it can move up and down the fingerboard. So I hope you find this helpful, and I'll leave it there. Bye.